There you are, Bob.
Yeah, how is everyone? There we go. Are we going live on YouTube as well?
Yep. Oh, I thought you said we're up. Yeah, we're definitely up. I'm
Oh,
sitting it on studio, and there it goes.
all right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to our first video of the year, our first 2021 video. Everyone's been drafting along, I'm quite sure. I'm Bob Harris. He's Emil Kadlec from FootballDiehards.com. Most of you, I'm sure, are getting the emails and got this notification from that. Hopefully, if you're on YouTube, you got your notifications there as well. If not, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification button, get all that stuff. Hit the like button, get the comments in there. We'll be looking forward to hearing from you. I'm trying to bring it up, but I'm not finding it. So and I'm subscribed. That'll teach me.
I guess
Let
it's
me
a little
just get all the
tech studio.
Let's get all the technology rolling. Videos. Yeah, I think the studio's a little behind. So we'll get caught up there. So if you have any questions, just put them in the chat and we'll get to them. In the meantime, we had kind of a targeted thing. We've been, as always, every summer, there's all kinds of chatter, hype, players we're drafting that, kind of catch our eye. And one of the things we always look for here is what we call the free square players, the players you're getting late that might have tremendous upside. And look, in best ball, we're all taking chances on a variety of players. Late in drafts. In your redraft, it's a little trickier, but also it's not, because you can just move on from guys that don't turn out, especially when you're in those double-digit rounds and the investment isn't great. So you're looking for that balance between a great deal of upside and the possibility that maybe it doesn't work out and I have to move on. So always waiver wire fodder, as you know, during the season, even the most competitive leagues, you'll be able to round somebody up that'll help you out. So some of the guys, Emil, we wanted to talk about today, some situations, more notably. So Houston's offense is easy to overlook, right? It's not Desean Watson. I've been saying all summer long, all year long, or at least until the revelations came out. There's two layers to this. Desean Watson does not want to play for the Texans, and Desean Watson is having off-field issues. We won't get into all of that because it's been hashed out over and over and over. But the bottom line is I don't see him playing. I'd say it's 90-10 that he's in a uniform on the field for anybody this year against that, 90% against that. So, and you always leave. NFL is crazy, right, Emil? I mean, you never say never, ever since Le'Veon Bell held out for a year to get more money. So, but that being the case, this offense is going to be led by Tyrod Taylor. So, and even the worst NFL offenses, there is some production. So we were looking, I've been drafting heavily. One of the players I've invested in, perhaps one of my most invested in, is Philip Lindsay. I know everyone, David Johnson is the running back there. Well, is he? The recent reporting out of Houston has David Johnson moving back to the Duke Johnson role. He's talked about it. He's acknowledged that this is the plan. Right now on the initial Texans depth chart, Philip Lindsay and Mark Ingram are listed as co-number ones. Now, Mark Ingram has a little relationship with David Culley, the new head coach there. They were together in Baltimore. So, it's kind of understandable having a really solid veteran around to help not only, play a role on the field, but also a role in the locker room and off the field. Philip Lindsay, on the other hand, we have a guy coming off a couple 1,000-yard seasons. Last year it wasn't good. Melvin Gordon, came in, and so after those 2,000-yard rushing season, Lindsay's production dipped to like 502 yards and a touchdown. Had injury issues as well. Now he's in a three-way split. I don't know that it will be. So what do we have for current ADP for Philip Lindsay?
Yeah, let's take a quick look at that. Lindsay right now is the 53rd running back taken, and actually David Johnson is 41st. And that's probably a lag that's going on between information and people drafting, because some of this data is average date over a period of a week or so. So
yeah, totally not unusual.
That's pretty late.
Yeah. Right. And that's why I'm calling him a free square player. Here's a player with running back one upside, or at least the potential to have that role, even in a share. I mean, we're drafting a lot of players in timeshares well ahead of that. He has a proven track record of being fairly productive when given the opportunity, and I think he'll have that opportunity. So you're looking at running back 52 off the board, who could end up giving you running back 2 or 3 totals over the course of the year. If he does not, move on, right? And that's the key with these free square players. For me, I'm not having any issue at all drafting him as my running back 5 in most cases. I mean, how can you go wrong there? Where do you stand on this one, Emil? Are you on board with Philip Lindsay?
Yeah, I've been playing a handful of best balls, and I've taken him a lot as like my fourth or fifth running back. I find it much harder to find a quote free square or a sleeper or deep sleeper running back as opposed to receiver. I got so many receivers that are coming out of my ears. And like you said, 13th round in a 12-team, 53rd running back taken. That's really late to maybe have a guy who you can start a lot, especially as the season progresses. It's hard to pass him up.
Right.
You worry about, the quarterback situation. Are they going to have the ball a lot? Is the offense going to have enough of snap counts? But the value, what you're giving up is so late in the draft. It's, like you said, a free square. He's nice. I like it.
I think one of my concerns there is they're probably going to be behind a lot, and they're going to probably have to be passing a lot. Tyrod Taylor might be another one of those undervalued assets, not as a starting quarterback, maybe not as a quarterback too, but maybe in best ball leagues when you go three deep. I mean, Davis Mills is a rookie quarterback. Do I expect much from him? It sounds like he struggled a little bit or to pick up the scheme. Recent reporting has been more positive. Also, every offense, even the worst offenses in the league, have some production, right? And there comes a point, whether it's bye weeks, injuries, attrition, whatever, where you might need a starter, even on a lousy offense. And we're going to address some of these offenses that we're talking about, these free square players on, is because they're not great offenses. It's not always the case. Sometimes players just get overlooked. And I think that's the case with a number of players we'll talk about here today. Lindsay might be one of them because he's not on a good offense.
And it's a new role. Well, too. At least he did in 2019. He didn't do much last year, but he missed a lot of games too. But he can catch the ball.
Yeah, he's
too,
capable.
So when they get behind, he's still going to be in a lot of the games. Although David Johnson catches the ball probably better than any of those backs.
Right, David Johnson aging a bit. So I think this is an interesting situation for a potential starter you're getting as a running back 4 or 5. I also think that another guy in the same category that maybe I don't have high expectations for, I know nobody else does because I was roundly ridiculed for drafting him and purchasing him in the auction version of the Kings Classic drafts, is Tevin Coleman. Look, I have high hopes for Michael Carter. I think he is capable of I think he's feature back material. Undersized, right? But if you look at Michael Carter coming off 2 years at University of North Carolina, playing with Javonte Williams, he's coming off a pair of 1,000-yard rushing seasons, right? He also is a huge, big play threat. He had 23 plays of over 20 yards last season in college. So I like him. I'm drafting the heck out of him. Also in recent drafts, Tevin Coleman is going off as I'm getting him as a running back 6. Early in the season, it's not unreasonable to expect a guy who's familiar with the offense. This is the San Francisco offense brought with Robert Saleh, Mike LaFleur, the offensive coordinator there. They're basically taking the Shanahan offense. So if nothing else, Tevin Coleman, look, this is not 2016 Tevin Coleman sharing with Devonta Freeman and tearing it up, breaking off all those long runs, demonstrating his speed. But he's a guy that might get you a little volume early in the season. Let's say you drafted a Saquon Barkley or someone you're worried about early in the year and you didn't get maybe his handcuff, or you don't know who Saquon Barkley's handcuff is because it might be 3 guys combined to do that. Maybe you go with Tevin Coleman early or a player similar to that, right? I'm not advocating. Again, we should put this into proper context. These are not players that are must-draft players. These are free squares, guys that if they come up big, you congratulate yourself, you crow to your league mates, you wave your fist in the air and proclaim your greatness, all these things. And if they fail miserably, you quietly move on. No one's going to know them going on the waiver wire.
Coleman is the 57th running back taken in the high-stakes ADP, which is basically late 14th round.
I'm guessing that's probably the high-stakes version is probably a little higher, and we're using the high-stakes ADP, you guys, because if you're out there watching, for a reason. It's because they're the most invested, managers, right? They're in there. They have a lot of money on the line, and they tend to be pretty knowledgeable. So I think it's a pretty solid ADP to use. You might find some of these guys even better priced or lower priced at a greater discount in your own league. So watch out for that as well. So I think that's great. Those are a couple of the running backs I'm looking at as kind of free square players. Lindsay in particular, and this is not a new thing for me, people. You can go back and read the Pro Forecast magazine, which I was writing parts of in May, and you'll find that Philip Lindsay is the player I had identified as a sleeper, undervalued, overlooked kind of commodity. And I think he remains there as well. Another interesting situation, Emil, is the New Orleans receiving corps, where Marquez Callaway is suddenly becoming everybody's darling. It's going to be an offense with a lot of change, right? Callaway is a 2020 pickup. He continues to solidify his role in the offense. Recently switched from number 12 to number 1. It might turn out to be a fortuitous change because we know Michael Thomas is going to miss some time, perhaps even near about half the season. Traequan Smith, never been very consistent. So I think if you go back on his stats page on footballdiehards.com, you'll find he's had 2 years ago, he had 2 big games against the Washington, against the Eagles, came up really big and caught our attention, but he's never been able to sustain it. I think over the course of his career, there's been 3 really good games. If you listen to the reporting from anywhere from Mike Triplett from ESPN, Catherine Terrell from The Athletic, among others, USA Today wire is watching it well. He has been the most heavily targeted. He's been targeted every day by both Taysom Hill and Jameis Winston, including near the goal line, even while he's spending most of his time in practice being covered by Pro Bowl quarterback Marshawn Lattimore. So he's making plays on the regular. Also, if you saw him against the Ravens, 3 receptions, 61 yards against starting quarterbacks Marlon Humphrey and Marcus Peters. He's got great at getting separation. He battles for the ball, and he's got some moves after he catches it, and he's capable. Not small, 6'2", a little over 200 pounds, I believe. So this is a guy that could be your wide receiver 1 for the Saints early on. And where is he going in the average draft right now?
67. Callaway 67th, which parallels into the 12th round. Another free square. It's a beautiful thing.
Right, and that's the point here. He's, and look, there's a lot of unheralded guys. I mean, we think he's the one who's going to emerge. He's 204 pounds now that I'm looking it up. And so that's a, pretty comparable size to Michael Thomas, maybe a little heavier, but the height and the body type's the same. Remember, there are other guys. Deontay Harris, who maybe faces a suspension, had a horrible DUI, so he'll miss some time, but he's been catching eyes in camp. Lil Jordan Humphrey, my favorite apostrophe player, is still in the mix there as well. They have a number of guys. I'm going to tell you there's another player I have my eye on here too, Emil, that's Adam Troutman, the tight end. I think he's another free square at that position, although the ADP is rising, maybe more than I like. He was targeted 16 times as a rookie. He caught 15. That's pretty good, right? No Jared Cook, Michael Thomas out. Saints tight ends, according to our friend Matthew Berry at ESPN, Saints tight ends are tied for the 3rd most touchdowns and 2nd highest yards per reception since 2019. So this is a feature of that offense, right? It's a goal of that offense to get the tight end. And we can remember this going back to the Jimmy Graham days, even before that. We can go back to Cam Cleveland for crying out loud. They like a big athletic, field-splitting, seam-splitting tight ends, and Troutman, the converted wide receivers, that tall, lean guy who can get down the field pretty well. What's his ADP looking like right now?
His ADP is 15 right now.
For tight end 15. He's risen. I think the high stake, but still, tight end 2 price. You're not having to overextend. And one of the things I'm doing in my tight end strategy this year is I'm calling it top or punt. Right? I want one of those top 3 or I'll take it out to 4. I'm still a Mark Andrews fan. I know not everybody is. TJ Hawkinson could extend it to 5. I think Kyle Pitts, you're taking your chances. It's not an unreasonable gamble. And you'll see him going anywhere from tight end 3 to tight end 6. I like the lower end of that range. I would rather, I'm taking George Kittle, Darren Waller, Travis Kelce. Kelce, I'm fine in the 1st round. Waller, I'm fine in the 2nd round. You'll see Kittle going in the 3rd round sometimes. I think that's a reasonable price. I'm happy getting Mark Andrews in the 4th or 5th. He'll slip there on occasion. TJ Hawkinson a little lower. I'm fine with all those players. But if I miss on them, I'm equally fine punting until late. Some of that includes Irv Smith Jr., who seems to be rising as well with the reports coming out of training camp. Where does he stand right now, Emil?
12. ADP is 12.
Yes. So he's rising a little bit. He had been a little lower. And part of that is, we talk about this all the time on the Football Diehards program on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio, here on our videos, in our written work at the site. We tend to look down a drinking straw this time of year. We focus on the narrow band of information because that's what's being presented to us, and we think it's a permanent condition. And so when Mike Zimmer says, we don't see his role growing greatly. Well, no, they don't see his role growing greatly from what it was late last season when he was a heavily targeted, pass-catching machine, right? So, and remember, Kyle Rudolph has gone there as well. So I'm not overlooking any of these players later. There are other players. Look, there is a total free square at the position that I love. Dan Arnold, former Cardinals, and also a former Saint. Now, why does that matter? Joe Brady, formerly with the Saints, has made use of this type of tight end. And if you listen to the reports out of training camp, this is a guy Sam Darnold is looking for on the regular. They're connecting on big plays. Again, I'm sitting here like I'm a shilling. I'm the Dan Arnold shill. No, I'm the Dan Arnold for free shill. And that's the key here. You're paying nothing for Dan Arnold. It's just like in past years, I've been the Will Dissly shill or whoever. There's always some late round tight ends I'm fine taking. I was a little bit on Arnold last year. They criminally underutilized him in Arizona. I don't think that'll be the case where, look, we saw Ian Thomas fail miserably in this offense last year. I think this is the kind of tight end they're looking for. They have a good supporting cast, right? No one's going to be focused on stopping Dan Arnold in this offense. And Joe Brady has a history of using this type of player. Also, the Saints system where he worked previously has a history of using this type of player. So I'm kind of in on Arnold.
Right now is buried on the ADP. On the high stakes, he wasn't in the top 30. These things don't go that deep. I mean, he's the last player taking
free
square.
And I think there are a couple other free squares at that position. I'll just throw them out there while I'm talking about. Jacob Hollister in Buffalo has a little connection to Josh Allen from their college time. Good receiving threat when you talk to the beat writers. And a lot of this information that I rely on, I talk to people on the ground almost every day, every single football diehard show. We're getting that kind of on the ground intelligence. So Jacob Hollister's name has been thrown out. And with Chris Herndon continuing to struggle to do anything, to even be Chris Herndon, the name Tyler Croft has been brought up to me multiple times in Indianapolis. Kylan Grayson, the rookie tight end, has been mentioned a few times. Look, these are all guys, you don't probably have to draft them even. You just wait and see. That's the thing. If you draft one, you don't have to deal with the waiver wire issues. If you have a deep roster, throw them away when it doesn't work, or look super smart when it does. That's what we're all about here, looking super smart.
And also, Bill Belichick in New England has said a lot of very nice things about Jonnu Smith, who unfortunately has a little been hurt, hadn't played a lot. But he's another wild card. His ADP is probably falling right now. It's at 14. He's another interesting guy if you're looking for some variety in between your drafts to take him.
I think both he and Hunter Henry are victims of each other, right? Everyone's having a hard time figuring out. We've seen New England in the past, and offensive coordinator Josh Daniels used two tight ends very effectively. Those two tight ends weren't Henry and Smith, but they invested a lot of money in this position. I think a couple reasons. The tight end is a quarterback's best friend. We saw Cam Newton, aside from week 2 against Seattle last year, struggled to throw the ball deep. And so you have some intermediate threats. And we'll see if Mac Jones, the rookie, has looked good in camp. So expecting Newton to be the starter, but could go either way.
And you got to realize most leagues you're taking one tight end. So you may not get you may have somebody higher up, but in week 1, 2, and 3, you got to be watching these guys. You may find out that one of the tight ends in New England all of a sudden is the most targeted or second most targeted receiver on that team, and then it's time to make a change in your lineup or your roster.
Yeah, you maybe got to pick your poison and take a little chance, and maybe you have a hunch that one of those players, and like Mike Dempsey and I on the Football Diehards program have talked to a number of beat writers, that cover the Patriots, and we kind of tried to read a little bit into they went after Jonnu Smith first, right? Maybe that's the hair splitter there. The people on the ground tell us no, that's not the hair splitter. They wanted them both. We thought it was maybe fortuitous, oh, look, we were able to get this guy as well. It seemed like that was maybe the plan. They spent a hell of a lot of money on the position, and there's good reason for that. I think their tight ends were miserably, what they have, 20 catches or fewer last year. The entire tight end core.
Their team back to what they want it to be in the position with the double tight end that they used for years. So,
And while we're talking about free square players, let's throw out a couple other Patriots because they're on my mind. That would be Jacoby Myers, if you listen to the people who cover the team, Tom Curran from NBC Sports, as venerable as they come in that role, they've talked about him being the next Julian Edelman. He's going to work the slot. Nelson Aguilar, Kendrick Bourne, other free agent acquisitions that are coming in that'll work the outside. I think Aguilar's crazy cheap too. But I think Meyer is the guy that I have my eye on. When I hear that talk from people who have covered this team for many years, I mean, this just in, the Patriots have a long history of using the slot receiver effectively. We can go back to Troy Brown. We can go to Wes Welker. We can go to Julian Edelman. There's someone I'm missing in between there too. Danny Amendola has been effective in that role as well. So and Meyer is not like those guys in that he's taller, he's heavier, bigger built guy, but they intend to use him in the same way. So I think that's another free square play that I'm willing to take a chance on, especially if Cam Newton's a quarterback. Again, did I mention he hasn't looked great throwing the ball deep? He hasn't looked great throwing the ball deep. I think one game against Seattle he did. I'll grant him that. But since his shoulder surgery back in Carolina, that's been 4 years ago, I don't know if we've seen him truly be able to unleash it on a weekly basis. And maybe Mac Jones will, and the deep threats will fare well. But if you like the deep threat, Nelson Aguilar is equally free.
Yeah, Myers in the low stakes ADP, he's not even in it. And in the high stakes, he's sitting right in 69, and Aguilar is at 72. So again, we are really throwing out a lot of options here for people to think about for their free squares.
Yeah, these are the kind of players we're after late. Look, we're drafting all the players you love when you love them. It makes perfect sense. So let's go to the semi-free square, a couple of them that I really like. Antonio Brown. So 22 starters returning in Tampa Bay. He re-signed. Had a knee issue that he got cleaned up this year. They're saying he's healthier than ever. But here's the key. Brown led the Buccaneers in receiving targets over the final 5 weeks of the regular season. Did not have a drop in 2020. Also had the highest yards after catch of any Buccaneers receiver with 5.82 yards. He was versatile. They lined him up inside, outside, in the backfield. He's got the change of gears, the ability to get open. He changed the dynamic of that offense a little bit. So, look, I loved Chris Godwin. I believe when Bruce Arians tells us he wants Godwin to be the straw that stirs that offense, right? Mm-hmm. That's his big slot receiver. We've seen this in the past. Larry Fitzgerald in Arizona was that player as well. But Godwin had the injury issues last year. Look, I think he'll be great, but you're investing. What's his ADP right now, Emil?
37.
Godwin?
He's 37.
All right, and so Mike Evans also going to be.
Maybe it's climbed.
Yeah, Mike Evans also. Look, I'm not against drafting Mike Evans. I do it often. 7 straight 1,000-yard seasons. There's something to be said for him. Also, you're paying for that, right? Where's his ADP at right now?
Yeah, Evans is 14, and actually Godwin's 15. They're right next to each other.
Right, they're right next to each other. So you're basically spending high-end wide receiver 2 capital on them. Again, not against it, but Antonio Brown has risen to where? 37, was it?
37, yes.
Yeah, so wide receiver, just outside wide receiver 3 price. I think for a player, and so adding to that argument, right? And again, I'm going to throw out another one here that's associated with this team in just a moment. But you're looking, remember this offense, Tom Brady has said it, everyone there has said it. They didn't really get on track until about week 12 last year. The offense didn't come together until after that game against the Chiefs. They didn't get it dialed in, didn't figure out. Remember when Tom Brady couldn't throw a deep pass? He was the worst deep passer in the league. Everyone wondered if he'd lost it all. He ended up as the best deep passer in the NFL. This offense is built for that. They have multiple threats. So thinking Antonio Brown, who has great chemistry, appears, hell, Tom Brady has him move in his basement or wherever every chance he gets. Here he comes again, healthier this year, better command of the offense. Tom Brady with a better command of the offense. Also, don't overlook the hand that Tom Brady may have had in the arrival of Giovanni Bernard, right? A receiving back, one of the best receiving backs in the NFL over the last few years. Who had the most drops among running backs last year? Was it Leonard Fournette and Ronald Jones? Yes, it was. I think they had like 5 to 7 drops each, depending on whose numbers you count. Look, Tom Brady, this team listens to Tom Brady. Maybe he said, you guys, we need a better passing down back. Well, and Tampa Bay passing down is when? Every damn down.
Yeah.
And there's
well, it's going to be interesting because we've got all these players now, and Gio's entered this team. And personally, I think Gio's a great best ball because, kind of in the New England scheme, maybe you have those hot games where the defense is doing certain things, and all of a sudden the guy just goes nuts. How many balls are there for all these skill position players? Question mark. But it does bring you back maybe you should be drafting Tom Brady a little more frequently in your drafts, because look at all these tools, and they've got a year of experience. He actually was the 7th rated tight end fantasy quarterback last year. Not bad. He had a couple bad games, but he did pretty damn good.
What's the ADP right now, Emil?
For Gio, it is
Tom Brady.
For Gio,
50 for Gio. What is it for Brady?
Of the 12th. Let's go find Brady here real quick. It's high stakes. If I could click buttons fast. 9. 11th round.
Yeah, I think that's kind of about how I've been drafting him. I don't think that's unreasonable if you're not going with one of the earlier quarterbacks. And I think that's fine now. You know, the community has dialed back on the no quarterbacks until the last round thing. Well, some of us have. Yeah. I think I've been using quarterbacks at a point where I don't see value at other positions. And that could be as early as the 5th round. And when it is, I'll get the quarterback.
Yeah, as you're doing draft strategy, I try and stay away from what round, because it can vary from draft to draft.
Right.
He is the 9th quarterback. So as you're building your team, and all of a sudden you're thinking, well, I wanted one of those top 5, but I've got this great running back and I'm getting this receiver. Okay, let me punt to Tom Brady maybe. And as you're going down the draft, when you're getting close to the 9th pick, maybe it's time to take Brady or punt again down. So it's all relative as how your draft is going and what other players are available in other positions.
Right, and people who are telling you, I always do this, that's probably not a great approach. Always doing something is not great. Doing something in response to the circumstances, how the board is playing out, where you find value. I said that, I'll find myself, if I don't like a player of value, that could be in the 4th round. It could be in the 5th round. It could be in the 8th round. It could be in the 10th round. Maybe I'm finding skilled, non-quarterbacks at every round that I think are great. But what I do, as soon as I don't see one that I love, I find a quarterback that I love. And those players are available at all ranges as well into the late portions of drafts. So you can do that. We have a couple more minutes here, a couple more free square players that I like, and Marvin Jones Jr. is one of them. We're going to look at this offense in Jacksonville. Trevor Lawrence, rookie quarterback. They say he's pretty good. Number 1 pick overall, in case you've been hibernating. Urban Meyer hopes to have a fast-paced, offense. It's something he's always used. He's got a couple decent running backs, so one of them, Travis Etienne, who should contribute heavily in the passing attack. DJ Chark's a guy we all love, right? A young and up-and-coming talent. I think that's correct. I would be fine taking him. But Marvin Jones is a guy, he's led the only wide receiver in the NFL with at least 9 touchdown catches in each of the past 2 seasons. He's familiar with the offense. He played under Darrell Bevell, the offensive coordinator there in Jacksonville, in Detroit. He finished as wide receiver 20 on a points per game basis per Matthew Berry in 2019. I like that aspect of it. But who really knows who the number 1 receiver is going to be here? This is one of those cases, much like Antonio Brown, I'm not against drafting the cheapest component of a group of receivers. If Laviska Shenault Jr. is going a little ahead of him, I think Jones has been climbing a little bit, right, Emil? What's his current ADP?
His current ADP is 52, where you have Shenault at 36 and Chark at 35. So he's well below.
I will devote this. Don't have more shares of any player in best ball than Marvin Jones Jr. Philip Lindsay's a close second, but Jones is a person I'm targeting, especially in best ball. I mean, I think that's a great thing. But in regular fantasy as well, if you're getting later in your draft, people are overlooking this type of player. Don't be afraid. And one other that I really like is Tyrell Williams. I know he's in Detroit. Maybe Rashad Perriman's number 1. Maybe Amon-Ra St. Brown comes out of nowhere as a rookie and has a great season out of the slot. Jared Goff is the quarterback. He was not great last year, right? Not from a fantasy perspective for sure. But if you think the Detroit Lions aren't going to be playing from behind a fair amount, I have news for you. Their defense is not good either. So Tyrell Williams is a former 1,000-yard receiver, released by Vegas in February. It's a 1-year deal, but it reunites him with Anthony Lynn, who is his offensive coordinator in Los Angeles. So when last time they played was, 2019. Williams, he did what? Number 3, got 153 passes in 3 years under Anthony Lynn. Average yards per reception over 16 yards.
And wait till you hear his ADP in high stakes.
He doesn't even have one.
78.
I love it.
I've been taking him a lot in the best ball. he's just a guy, you're at the end of the draft. I mean, that relatively speaking, which I hate to do, is 15th round. But 78th receiver taken. I mean, you could plug him in. He's just one of those guys. You're at the end of your draft, and you're going, "Oh, who can I take?" Well, I take a guy who could possibly be a number one wide receiver in the 14th or 15th round.
Yeah, if you're looking at various projections out there, I mean, you could be all over the board. If you think maybe Williams ends up with maybe 90 targets, 85 targets, somewhere in that range. If he finished with 40 to 50 catches, 600 to 700 yards, and a handful of TDs at that price, you're drafting be a bye week filler. Is there maybe a little more upside? Maybe a little bit. Again, we're trying to temper your expectations with these guys by reminding you we call them free squares for a reason. They're essentially free. That means you can throw them away, dispose of them, move on from them quickly if things don't work out as hoped. And that's what it is, hope.
Yeah, but there's logic. This guy could be the number one receiver for that team. So those are things we look at late in the draft when you're trying to fish for players. This guy could end up, he's got a decent ceiling is what we're saying. He's not got a super ceiling, but he's got a decent ceiling to do some things for you. And you can get him for nothing. You can get him for so little. It scares me sometimes when he's available. I start to question myself. One of the other ones, if we want to go off, I don't want him to forget because we kind of got off on a fun tangent, is Russell Gage for Atlanta, who last year played a little bit more than normal because Julio was out for a few weeks. And last year he ended up the 37th fantasy productive wide receiver when he wasn't even a starting receiver except for those 4 weeks. And right now his ADP, I was just looking at it and now I've lost it, 56. You can get this guy who could end up being a potential wide receiver 3.
Yeah, you look down the stretch when Julio was mostly missing most of his games and Gage was pretty fantastic. He's had career highs in targets, all the things you want. He had at least 50 receiving yards in 5 of his last 7 games, and those games mostly with Jones out. So I think that's another one that's probably better than a free square, because he goes in as wide receiver 2. You kind of know his role. He's not going to overtake Calvin Ridley. We're not going to sit here and discuss him as a potential wide receiver 1, and we don't know what Kyle Pitts is going to do. But Ridley and Pitts are the players that are attracting all the attention. That's who people are drafting. So if you're looking late in drafts, Russell Gage is there. Don't necessarily pass him by without giving him a second thought. And he might be worth that.
He kind of falls in your lap if you ignore him for a while and you get to that point in the draft. 55 receivers have already gone, perhaps, or in that. I mean, you're sitting there going, "Who can I take?" You can take him, and then you can get a couple of the guys we talked about, Tyrell Williams, and a couple more rounds after that. Those are great value guys. It's your 5th, 6th, 7th receivers. Depending how deep your rosters are.
Yeah, you don't want to go all in on horrible offenses, but spot playing them is great. All right, Emil, let's call it a day here. We're going to be back. You'll get plenty of these videos. We'll get the live YouTube up and running. You'll be able to join us, have a conversation with us. We'll answer your questions. I'm going to do an Ask Me Anything. When is that? Thursday, tomorrow. That'll be August 19th. We're going to do that about an hour before kickoff. So wherever you're getting ready to watch the Patriots against the Eagles, dial us up an hour early. Check it out on YouTube. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the notification button so you get the notification when we go live. Like the videos. Make comments. We all love all that. But I'll be here to answer all your draft questions and help you figure out strategies, etc. And we'll talk it all through and try and get you on point. And I'm always excited for these. Love doing the videos. So check us out. I'm Bob Harris. Follow me on Twitter at Football Diehard. He's Emil Kadlec. Follow Football Diehards on Twitter at FF Diehards. And we look forward to engaging with you. And go to the site. Sign up. The August update is up and running. We've got all kinds of great content up there. Tons of articles, including Emil's latest draft plan that kind of takes you through the different ranges of the draft. We've got JB Calandro. We've got our new commissioner series at the Commish HQ. So check all that out. Look forward to having you at footballdiehards.com. We'll see you next time. That'll be Thursday, August the 19th, an hour before kickoff. I think that's 6:30 Eastern time. Right here.
Sounds great. See you
all right, everybody. Check it in.